Kirsten Heaven, who was representing the coordinating group of non-state, non-police corps participants. She gave a very robust statement, talked about how long things have been going on for, how insane it is we've got to wait another 2 years for the next tranche. Just how insane all that is. I mean, like, it's been repeated a lot by a lot of people, and not least on my timeline. And just it's ridiculous how the inquiry is running things, basically. Then she looked at the what we were to expect from the managers that we're going to be hearing from the next week and a half. Pointed out that we've already heard that the pressures to where to target, where to infiltrate. We've heard from Witness Z on behalf of the security services that these often came from the Prime Minister and Whitehall, and that police officers knew that what they were doing was unlawful. That the terms of reference that were being used were deliberately vague and opaque, and were being criticised at the time as just woefully inadequate, that didn't really identify what subversion was meant to be, included lots of lawful behaviour. Found a speech from Robin Cook, MP from Parliament in '78, just said that the terms of reference for Special Branch was an invitation to the police to stick their nose into any form of political or industrial activity. He didn't know the Spycops existed. This was just what Special Branch's terms of reference were, which was the closest thing there was to any sort of code of conduct for the undercover police. She was the example of the targeting of the Workers' Revolutionary Party, which was a party that was not involved in any form of public disorder, was standing in elections and so forth. Clearly a political party, not subversive, not in any way involved in anything violent or public order or anything, which the SDS knew full well, and senior managers even wrote, yes, they're not involved in public order, but this may be infiltrating them, maybe a springboard into finding subversion, a stepping stone for further infiltration. That the Home Office knew that there were issues and there was no watertight basis for the kind of the surveillance they were doing. They were, that basically, though there were the concerns that existed within those departments kind of ended with Thatcher being elected in '79. She didn't share any disquiet that her predecessors might have had about the work of Special Branch. Talked about the training they had, or the lack of. Looked at the penetration of extremist groups document that Conrad Dixon wrote in '68. There was a whole bunch of rules in that about how you should behave. Maximum of 12 months, don't get involved in writing things, public speaking, and so on, all of which were broken by Conrad Dixon himself. There was also a Home Office document, informants who take part in crime. That was all completely ignored as well. There was, Dixon was described as having a very loose rein, and certainly you get the impression these documents were more written as a box-ticking exercise than actually to be used in any terms of training. Why? Why? Even though they identified that it was a problem, not just for democracy, which they obviously didn't care about, but for their own officers to be deployed for such long periods of time, did they send them out for 4 or 5 years when they said they should have only been 12 months? One admitted the reason married men were favoured is because it was considered there'd be less temptation for them to enter into inappropriate relationships with women. That didn't fucking work, did it? He talked about the absolute rule of 2 years, which was nearly always broken. The knowledge that they had of left-wing groups was, not really necessarily passed down to the officers on the ground, who were just encouraged just to go out and sort of move around and pick up whatever. The whole idea that it was about public order, it just doesn't stand up to any scrutiny. It's obvious this was just information gathering for MI5. MI5 directed what was being done. The whole thing about public order was just a fig leaf in order to justify the existence of the unit. Roy Creamer, when in response to demands for them to have knowledge of an upcoming anti-Nazi League demo, said the idea that the Special Demonstration Squad would find out and reveal plans was wishful thinking, I think. Horse's mouth stuff. But I mean, this, the public order justification was used in the annual reports to request more funding from the Home Office. It was blatantly obvious they weren't doing that, but they still kept getting more and more money every year. If you look at the public order events of that era, the Red Lion Square, Southall, Lewisham, not preempted or policed successfully because from anything the SDS did. In fact, it was seen that, their advice to Uniform Branch was just ignored. In fact, they decided to, supposedly withdrew their officers from Southall, or at least only one admits to have been there because it was going to be so dangerous, because they knew that the uniform police were out to teach protesters a lesson. Just this constant sort of this thing that the police clearly didn't think that it was possible that people could be justified in campaigning against injustices, that everything was just subversives, that's all it could possibly be. That's the only reason why anybody was protesting. She built a really good picture of that. That they just didn't consider the lawfulness of any of their activities. It was just totally ignored any of that. We talked about the closed sessions again with the officers who gave evidence in secret, and how they talked about the deeply sexist and misogynist banter, even though that's been withdrawn. I think we're about to go back, maybe. Oh no, that's just the Undercover Policing Inquiry being disorganised and not having their mics on mute.
You'll come on in about 5 seconds. You'll need to switch your camera on as well.
It's going well, as you can tell. But we are about to go back to the inquiry again. So I'll leave it at that. I'll go live after the inquiry's final bit of the day, which is up next, because it's going to be an early finish today. And I will be back at 7 o'clock with Twitter Spaces. I won't be doing this tomorrow. I'm at a funeral. I'm sorry about that, but it's more important. Okay, cheers.